Welcome to Round Glass. I'm Vimalasara. Thank you for joining me for this conversation and deep look at approaching our relationship to alcohol with awareness and self-compassion. Let's begin with a brief grounding, a meditation to settle us into this experience collectively. So before we begin, do what you need to do, relax, and be present with me for the next few minutes. If you need to turn something off on the cooker, then do it. If you need to attend to something in your household, then please do it. If you need to stretch, lay down, sit, then please do. This is time for you. So let's begin. Today we will do a brief practice of rust, working with the mind. So settling onto your meditation spot and having a sense of the mind dropping into the heart, mind-heart becoming one, and mind-heart dropping into the gut. And just really allow yourself to arrive. So this time of the year, there's lots of triggers and lots of activation. And we're going to learn to work with these triggers and activations through this brief practice of rust. Recognizing that you're activated or triggered during this time of the year. And that's all we need to do is just recognize that we're activated, that we're triggered. You stands for understanding that we're just simply caught in a story full of judgments, full of perceptions, and often this story is an old story. Yeah. When we're activated, we get caught in a story. And this old story can create a relapse. So we just understand we're caught in a story and we can step out of the story. S stands for sensations. Whenever we're caught in a story, there's going to be sensations in the body, and we can sit with sensations, we can stretch with sensations, we can sway with sensations, stand with sensations, even sing or scream with sensations. So somatically moving the body around to begin to release some of those fears and some of those emotions. And T stands for trust. Trust this too shall pass. And if we're still assailed by thinking, caught in a story, the T can stand for tell. Tell the story to relax. Tell the story to step aside so you can have a moment of freedom. Rust. So during this holiday season, you could just call on rust to remind you that you're caught in a story. Or you could call on S and just connect with sensations, just reminding yourself to connect with sensations. Or you could call on the you, understanding you're caught in a story. It may even make you smile and laugh. Here we go again. I'm caught in the same old story. And that story is going to drive me to pick up my choice of distraction. Or you might call on the T and just tell the story to relax. Or trust this too shall pass. Or you may call on the R and just recognize you're activated and you need to take care of yourself. Rust. So we'll have a few seconds with me saying nothing, and then we'll bring the practice to a close. So welcome back. It's lovely to be with all of you today. And you know I like asking questions. And the question today is, how would you honestly describe your relationship to alcohol? Let's read some of your responses. I love all alcohol! Exclamation mark. Sometimes I get carried away. I don't drink often, just socially. I'm much more mindful of alcohol after taking a long break from it. I don't drink alone or during the week, but enjoy having a drink if I go out to dinner. So these are a few of your responses. Thank you for sharing and for your authenticity. So let's talk about this time of year and this relationship to alcohol. Christmas and New Year used to be my time. I would overdo it. The orders were in, the parties flowing, the nightclubs bustling, and everyone around me was either binging on drink and or drugs. I was often so out of it that I couldn't even enjoy the night ahead or even appreciate the night ahead. And I never called myself an alcoholic, and yet it was during this time of the year. If I ever bathed, it would be during that time. And for the Brits, bathing is vomiting. And once I accidentally overdosed. And so we do need to be careful around this time of the year. Xmas is upon us. For people, this may mean let your hair down, kick back your shoes and let loose. Who cares? It's Christmas. For others, it's a time when you can get smashed and nobody is going to say much. Why? Because it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Those of you who may not consider having an issue with alcohol still may see it as a season of hedonism, the one time of the year when you can have those extra drinks. And for some, this time of the year is the binge season. And then, of course, there are those people who are scared about all the boozing and all the drugging that can go on during the holidays. And let's take a moment to pause. Just notice what's going on in the body as I speak about this. Yeah. Some people are anxious about being with family members who drink too much and become abusive. Yeah. There are some of you who fear the dreaded relapse, fear having pressure on you to drink. Go on, it's Christmas, lighten up. One drink won't hurt you. All this pressure. Some of you may think this is the time you want to get someone to detox. Well, pause right here. Detoxing from alcohol is one of the most life-threatening detoxing that a human can go through. And if you think you're helping someone by hiding all their drink, it's a mistake. Detoxing from alcohol must take place in a hospital and or with people who know how to handle the extreme crisis the body goes through. The underlying thing that brings all of this together is anxiety. There is a lot of anxiety this time of the year, and when we're anxious, we often want to control a situation, and often people who struggle with alcohol will turn to the intoxicant to help regulate themselves so they can feel more in control. So, what can we do when there are so many messages around us to drink, so much pressure on us to drink, so many people living it up, not caring about anything during the silly season, and so many people distressed around this sad season? This time of the year can hold tough memories for many. It's supposed to be a happy time. And we know for many people it isn't a happy time. So what can we do to make it easier for ourselves, make it happier for ourselves if we don't want to pick up the drink? First, we must get transparent. Come out of denial. Don't even notice I am lying. Yes, denial, those letters, DENIAL. Don't even notice I am lying. And I say this because some of you have already made the decision to drink. You have. You may have even come along here, but you've already told yourself you've made the decision to drink, you've planned it, you've decided if somebody offers you a drink, you're going to take it because it's Christmas. There are those facilitated thoughts. Let me say that again, facilitated thoughts. These facilitated thoughts are cunning. It's Christmas, what the hell? Everyone else is drinking. My family would think I'm being a bit snooty. It's just too hard this time of the year. And these thoughts will facilitate us to pick up and will end up in a relapse. Let's pause again for a moment. Check into the body. Notice what's happening. So, get transparent. If you have made the decision to drink, acknowledge it and see if you can put some boundaries around it for yourself. There's no point in me saying don't drink if you plan to drink, and you can at least put in some boundaries. And this isn't an excuse to relapse. This is making you become aware of what you are doing. Those of you who really don't want to drink, let's look at some of the things that may trigger you. When we notice we're being triggered, it can interrupt the vicious cycle of alcoholism. And so there's a great mnemonic, HALTS. Each letter stands for something. Some of you may have heard of HALT. I put an S at the end, HALTS. So H. Ask yourself, are you happy? Now, happy can be a trigger. Happy, excitement, activates the body. Happy is great, having a really good time. So then let's have a drink. Okay, so that can trigger us into picking up. Or you may be experiencing being hassled. It can be a hassle during this time. Or you may be experiencing being harassed. Or you may simply just be hungry. Sometimes people don't even recognize they're hungry and they pick up the drink instead of picking up some food. And how can we just be humble? That's the antidote to the H, to just be humble. A stands for alive, just noticing that you're alive, and actually you may be a bit anxious, you may be a bit agitated, You may even be a bit angry. You may even be a bit activated. That's okay. Turn towards it and just don't let it take you down the same rabbit hole. Anxiety is part of life. Agitation is part of life. It's part of being alive. And the antidote to this is appreciation. Just appreciate life as it is. Appreciate life around you. And when I say appreciate life, it could be the trees, the leaves have fallen off the trees. It could be the flowers that are hibernating a bit in the winter. It could be appreciating the birds. Yeah, appreciate. L stands for lonely. Loneliness is a big one during this time of the year because the expectation is we're supposed to be around people. And in some countries, maybe they've clamped down and said you can't be around large groups of people. And so you're experiencing loneliness. And when we're lonely, we want a friend. And that friend can be a bottle of drink, can be a can of drink. It's our best friend. So be aware. Yeah. And you might even be experiencing lethargy, lethargic, listless. Sleep is so important, and I'll say a bit more when we get to the S. But the antidote to loneliness, lethargy, listless is love. Really seeing if you can think of self-love or think of somebody who loves you, who really wants to take care of you or care about you. T stands for tense. Are you tense? Many people are tense during this time. Have you become a bit terse? You could even be thirsty. Many people who struggle with alcohol find it very difficult to distinguish between thirsty and hungry, and find it really difficult that when they're thirsty to realize that all they need is a glass of water. And because people don't understand their body, aren't in touch with their body, when they're thirsty, a thought will come into their head, I'm thirsty, okay, I'm going to pick up a drink, an alcoholic drink. Be aware of what you're thinking. And the antidote to this is togetherness. Together. Because often we can do this drinking on our own. And even if we do go out into community, we come home on our own, or the alcohol sets us apart. We become separate and other, and the togetherness is lost. And S. Noticing if you're stressed, if you're stirred up, if you're sad, sorrowful. And then we talk about sleep. Notice if you've had enough sleep. I can't say more than enough about sleep. Really become aware of this during the holiday season. It's so easy not to give yourself enough sleep. And when you don't have enough sleep, you're going to be at risk of picking up. You're going to be at risk of reacting. You're going to be at risk of saying things that you don't want to do. You're just going to be at risk of making mistakes and messing up. So really, I can't stress enough how important it is to give yourself enough sleep. And you will know what that means. You will know if you are cutting back on your sleep and become aware of sensations. And the antidote to this, if we're stressed, if we realize we haven't had enough sleep, stillness is just bringing in some stillness. So you can call on halts at any time. Perhaps when you're going to pick up, just say halt in your head, halt. And it may make you do something different. And remember, if you pick up in the next breath, you can always put it back down again. Okay, Let's hear from some of you. I love question time. So let's take a pause. Notice what's going on in the body. Notice if anything's resonated for you. And be kind. Remember to be kind. And let's look at some of your questions. I have learned the hard way that addicts lie, and it has made me scared to trust anyone. How can I regain trust when it comes to managing people who drink in my life today? Yes, thank you for that question. I would say what we need to manage is to manage our reactions around people who are drinking, is to manage our reactions around people who perhaps we are perceiving aren't being truthful. We have to remember that if somebody is struggling with alcohol, is binging, that actually this person is unwell, and that the disease of alcohol, one of the symptoms of the disease of alcohol is lying. Yeah. And so how can we be with this? And maybe we have to get honest and say to ourselves, I cannot manage this. It's not your job to manage somebody's drinking. And we might have to just get honest and say, actually, this is something that I can no longer be around. So we just have to get honest with ourselves. Rather than trying to manage somebody's drinking, how can we manage our thoughts and emotions around somebody's drinking? And it may be as a child you grew up in an alcoholic household, and so you're completely freaked out being around somebody who drinks. So let's move on to the next question. I'm watching my son model his dad's behaviour around alcohol, and it scares me. He is 21 and lives with us. What should or can I say to him about my concerns? This is a really difficult one. Your son is 21, so you've lived 21 years with his father who drinks. And so, in a way, the fact that you've stayed with the father, there's a part of you which is implying that actually this is okay, that an aspect of this is okay. And I know it's really hard to leave a relationship, and it's not about blame, but just to let you know how difficult this is, because that's the message. It's interesting that you talk about your son modeling his father's behavior around drinking. Maybe he's modeling your behavior because in a way you've implicitly implied that actually it's okay to be around his dad's alcohol. And so what's the problem if he starts drinking? Why isn't it okay for you to be around the alcohol? So again, it's turning that question back on you. What can you do? Yeah. And of course, you can have that conversation with your son, of course, and talk about your concerns and fears. But maybe it's better to get curious with your son. Get curious, ask him what's going on for him. What's happening? Why does he feel a need to be turning to alcohol? And really get into conversation with your son rather than judging your son and fearing, oh my God, he's just going to become like his father. And just taking a pause. Next question. For the past few months, I have stopped drinking. Well done. And I'm nervous going home for the holidays. I can understand that because I haven't shared this with my family. How do I tell them and not feel judged? Okay. Yeah, it's I you might want to think about actually letting them know ahead of time that actually you have stopped drinking and you won't be drinking. so that when you arrive, they already know that you won't be drinking. And you ask, how do you get to the situation when you don't feel judged? Feeling judged is not a feeling, that's a story. So for you, again, you could do this rust of realizing that actually when you think about telling your family you're not drinking, there's activation going on, and you just need to recognize that you're activated, and understand that you're caught in a story, and really connecting to sensations, shifting the sensations around in the body. And tell the story to relax, because it's just a story. They may not judge you, and if they do, so what? Yeah, because they're not judging you. What they're doing is they're protecting themselves, especially if they are people who drink. They're protecting themselves, and often, and you might say this is a story, but and of course it is a story, but often what's happening is that they are concerned that you might begin to make them think that they should stop drinking, and they don't want to stop drinking. So just be aware of that. Yeah. Just know the impact you can have is not by telling them, I don't drink, have you thought about not drinking? It's just modeling the behavior while you're there, of not picking up the bottle, of not picking up the can. And believe me, your family will more than likely be quite inspired, quite impressed. What are the ways I can be social and not feel pressure to drink because all my friends do? Well, there are many bars now which do non-alcoholic drinks. So that's one of the things that I do when I go out and I'm social. I have a non-alcoholic drink. Sometimes I have a virgin colada, because I just want to be with the group, and while they're having their cocktails, I can have a non-alcoholic cocktail. And sometimes I'm just happy just sipping away bubbly water. And you know what? When we've got a glass in our hand, often people don't even notice that you're not drinking. We're the ones thinking, oh my God, everybody knows I'm not drinking. And often people aren't aware, because they're too inebriated to know. They're so inebriated, they're not even concerned about what you're drinking. Let's see. How do you really know you have a problem with drinking? Hmm. That is a very familiar question. Again, you've got to get transparent with yourself. You will know if you have a problem with drinking. Hmm. Other people might see it and you might not see it, because you are in denial. Don't even notice I am lying. So just get transparent with yourself and notice what is going on. And remember, it's on a spectrum, because sometimes we compare ourselves with others. We think, well, I'm not that person who's on the park bench sprawled out with a can in my hand. Or I'm not that person who drinks too much at a party and I have a blackout. Yeah. So just get transparent. And the last question, we can use halt. We can use halt at any time. Just calling on the word halt can help us. Or just recognizing that actually I'm activated. I'm activated because I'm feeling happy or harassed, or I'm anxious, or I'm thirsty, or I'm hungry, or I'm stressed. And so noticing that, and when we notice that's what's going on, it can interrupt that flow of us picking up the alcohol. So I've said a lot. So let's take a few breaths together. really feel the breath. Thank you so much for joining me for today's conversation. And remember, you can meditate with Round Glass Live every single day. Check us out at round.glass and on our app. Until next time, I'm Vimalasara Live. Have a merry, merry Krumbo. Take care of yourself. Enjoy your holiday.